I stood on the balcony, feeling dizzy, with only the wind howling in my ears and the sound of my own frantic heartbeat. The railing shattered as Jack hit it hard, and his body lost balance, falling from the balcony. I looked down at the dark ground below, and an indescribable sense of relief washed over me. "It's finally over," I whispered to myself. At this moment, I had never felt so free, as if all the weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I slowly walked back to the living room, sat on the couch, and looked at the untouched piece of cheesecake on the table. A smile crept onto my face. Who would have thought that behind all of this was such a long and painful struggle? Thinking back to the first time I met Jack, I remember it was at a friend's party. He seemed so gentle, so considerate. He served me food, listened to me talk, and looked at me as if I was the only person in the world who mattered. My heart pounded, and I felt surrounded by happiness. How could I have imagined back then that this love would bring me so much danger? Our relationship was sweet. I felt so happy, even though I noticed the worried looks on my parents' faces. I ignored them and threw myself into Jack's arms. Jack said his parents had passed away, and he only had an uncle left. When it came time for our parents to meet, his uncle attended in their place. The uncle barely spoke and seemed a bit unhappy, but I didn't pay much attention. Soon after, we had a grand wedding. Jack's tall and handsome appearance made my friends envious, and I felt so proud. The married life started off full of sweetness. Jack cooked amazing meals for me every day. From Italian pizza to French escargot to Japanese ramen, each dish made with so much care. Especially the desserts. There were countless types, and Jack's cooking skills were superb. My friends loved coming over to eat, and Jack always looked at me with such focused, affectionate eyes. My friends said I had fallen into a honeypot. Jack would stroke my hair and say with a smile, "Emily, eat more. I like you like this. A little chubby is cute." I really thought he loved me, enough to not care about my weight at all. But as time went on, my body started losing control. My weight went from 130 pounds at our wedding to over 500 pounds. I developed many health issues related to obesity, and my heart became fragile. I tried refusing the food, but Jack was always so patient and caring. "It's okay. Being happy is the most important thing," he would say. He'd bring me a huge plate of cheesecake whenever I was upset, gently comforting me. "I'll do anything to make you happy." His tenderness and persistence made me gradually let my guard down, and I even began to feel that maybe I didn't need to worry about my weight. But I never imagined that all of this was just part of Jack's plan. He didn't want me to be happy. He wanted me to get sicker and sicker, eventually reaching the point where he could claim the insurance money, meaning my death. He started secretly adding high-sugar additives to my drinks, making me more and more dependent on them. Later, he gave me some supplements, claiming they were good for my health, but in fact, those pills were the very thing making my condition worse. Once, I felt so dizzy and weak that I wanted to go to the hospital, but Jack refused flatly. "No need to go to the hospital. Those doctors will just scare you. Here, take this pill, you'll feel better." He handed me a pill, his eyes full of affection. I really thought he was trying to help me, but I later realized that those pills only made me weaker. To further control me mentally, he kept telling me, "Emily, you're my beloved. I don't want you to be bothered by all the nonsense out there. It's better if you stay home. I'll take good care of you." With words like that, he slowly stripped away my freedom. He made me feel like the outside world didn't matter anymore and that he was the only one who would stay by my side. The turning point came on an ordinary afternoon. Jack was out, and I was using his computer when I stumbled upon an email left open. In the email, Jack and an insurance advisor were discussing how to claim a huge insurance payout as soon as possible. Attached was a policy with my name as the insured and Jack as the beneficiary. I felt like my world had just collapsed. My hands trembled. I couldn't believe that the Jack who had cared for me so much was actually planning to kill me. He wanted my inheritance and the insurance money. I read that email over and over, hoping I had made a mistake. But every word pierced me like a needle. Suddenly, I understood why my health had gotten worse over the years, why Jack always stopped me from going out, why I had ended up like this. He wanted me dead, and he wanted it to look natural so he could get the insurance money. That night, I lay in bed, watching Jack sleep peacefully. Tears rolled down my face silently. His face was still gentle, but to me, it had become unfamiliar and terrifying. I could no longer trust him. The man I once thought I'd spend my life with was actually my executioner. The next day, I made up an excuse to go back to my parents' house. In reality, I contacted a private doctor to help me lose weight. I asked my mother to come up with reasons to have me stay at home often, so I could be away from Jack's watchful eyes. After several months, my weight finally dropped to 400 pounds. Though I still had trouble moving, I was at least able to walk around a bit. Every time I went back to Jack, I wore loose clothes to hide my changes. I acted just like before, obedient to him, still craving his cooking, as if nothing had changed. But deep inside, I knew everything was different. Jack obviously noticed some changes. He started getting anxious. He realized I wasn't as submissive as before. Sometimes I would even refuse the sweets he gave me. He'd casually ask, "Emily, are you hiding something from me?" His eyes filled with suspicion. "No, it's just that I don't have much of an appetite lately." I tried to act calm, smiling as I answered. He frowned, forcing a smile, but I knew he'd begun to suspect me. To dispel his doubts, I acted dependent on him in front of him, even joking while he cooked. "Jack, I really don't know what I'd do without you. You're too good to me." He seemed touched by my words, and the tension on his face eased for a while, but I knew his patience was wearing thin. I had to act fast. I didn't want to involve my parents, nor did I want to confront Jack head-on. So I decided to use the balcony at home, the one with the railing that had been loose for a long time and never fixed. Finally, the opportunity came. That night, I deliberately started an argument. I questioned him about why he always made me eat those things and why he wouldn't let me go out. Jack got angry. He rushed at me, grabbing my arm, trying to push me back into the room. I struggled, and we ended up moving closer and closer to the balcony. I leaned against the railing, pretending to be scared while Jack kept pushing, shouting at me to listen. At that moment, I used all my strength to push him toward the loose railing. The railing gave way instantly. His eyes filled with disbelief, and his body lost balance, falling into the darkness below. At that moment, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. All the fear, all the despair, disappeared with his fall. I slowly walked back to the living room, sat down on the couch, and looked at the piece of cheesecake on the table. A smile once again spread across my face. I was finally free.